Something fishy. You mean I have to sit in this horrible hot apartment all summer? But Mum, it's so boring here. We always go to the lake every single summer, and now she was telling me that we couldn't go. It's the money, Eric, Mum said. It costs a lot to rent a house on the lake, and we don't have it this year. This had been a terrible year for money. The year of the divorce. The year that everything had gone wrong. Mum stood in the corner of my bedroom and stared at me. I guess she thought I was going to cry or something, but I didn't cry. I smiled, and I told her everything was going to be okay, even though it wasn't. After she left, I sprawled on my bed. I closed my eyes and tried to picture the lake. The water was probably bluish grey today, and clear. I scrunched my eyes tightly and tried to imagine how it felt. Cold. Nice. I could almost feel the sandy bottom of the lake squish between my toes. Eric? It was my sister, Sarah. Her voice brought me back to my own room. Can't you ever knock? I shouted. Sarah never knocks. She's 9, 3 years younger than me. But she should still knock. Sarah and I are different in lots of ways. I have brown hair and brown eyes. She has red hair and green eyes. I'm nice and she isn't. I knock and she doesn't. Well, I sighed as I rolled off the bed and stomped across the room to my fish tank. We're not going to the lake, Sarah announced. I know that, Sarah, I groaned. But it's boring here in the city and we don't have air conditioning or anything. Don't remind me, I said. Leave me alone, it's too hot to talk. She shuffled her feet for a while, but then she left my room. Of course, she forgot to close the door behind her. I gazed into my fish tank and thought about the sweltering city heat. My t-shirt was already sticking to my back, and it was only June. What would it be like by August? I sprinkled some food into the water and sat down. The fish raced towards it. First the big fish, then the medium-sized fish. The little fish almost killed each other fighting over the leftovers. Well, at least the fish will be able to go swimming this summer, I thought. Lucky fish. I woke up early the next day. It was brutally hot. It must have been 100 degrees in my room. I glanced at the clock and groaned. 8 in the morning, and the heat was unbearable. I didn't even bother getting dressed. I just put on my shorts and shuffled out to the kitchen. Mum was frying bacon and wiping her forehead on her sleeve. I'll buy some fans today, she promised. She slid a plate of pancakes and bacon under my nose. Took a few bites, but I wasn't very hungry. It was too hot to eat. I walked back into my room and gazed into the fish tank. The fish seemed happy and fresh. They were flicking through the water like silver and gold flashes of cool lightning. I wondered what it would be like to be a fish. It must feel fantastic, swimming around like that in the cool water. I followed the fish for a long time, back and forth, until my mother came in. Allowance day, Eric, she announced. Maybe you can buy something cold this afternoon, like an ice cream, or buy another fish, one of those exotic fish that you love so much. I didn't want to buy a fish. I wanted to be a fish in the lake. I called my friend Benny, but there was no answer. And then I remembered Benny went to Colorado with his parents. My friend Leo was on his way to camp, and Dweezil the Weasel was at his grandmother's for the summer. Wow, what a boring summer. I spent my allowance at the pet store. I bought a castle for my fish tank. It was pink, with all kinds of doors and windows. The fish seemed to like it. They swam in and out of it as if it was their new home. They liked it so much that the next week I bought them a tiny purple rowboat, and the week after that I bought them a new friend, a plastic diving figure with a long, sharp spear in his hand. They seemed to like that too. I gazed at my fish whenever I wasn't at the playground behind school or watching TV or at my computer. I couldn't stop staring at them. And then late one night, something seriously strange happened. My room felt like a furnace. I lay on my bed without moving. My shorts were sticking to the backs of my legs. My socks were clammy and gross. I turned and glanced at the tank. I stood up. The glow from the fish tank drew me across my shadowy room. I pulled my desk chair over to the fish tank and gazed at the fish. My gourami streaked through the castle and circled the boat again and again. One of my platies disappeared under the boat. The bubbles from the filter kept swirling round and round and round. The bubbles faded in and out of focus, gurgling, gurgling, gurgling. I raised my index finger and touched the cool water. I dipped my finger deeper into the tank and twirled it. My finger seemed to have a mind of its own. It moved in a circle, then it drew a perfect figure 8. It formed another, and then another. 5 times clockwise, 2 counterclockwise, 3 to the side, again and again and again. In the hall, I heard the clock strike 10 times. I drew one more figure 8 through the water with my index finger, and then, as I sat there with my eyes half closed, the weirdest thing happened. As the clock struck 10, I suddenly felt wet and cold. I blinked several times trying to understand. I spun around and kicked my feet and faced a fish, eye to beady eye. It was right there, goggling at me. Whoa, I cried. Did I fall in the fish tank? I plunged through the water and looked above me. The fish were staring down at me, and they were huge, like whales. Even the smallest goldfish were gigantic. How did I get down here? I gurgled. What's happened to me? I'm smaller than a goldfish and I can breathe underwater. I should have been scared, but this was too exciting. I couldn't believe it. I dived to the bottom of the tank and did a somersault. Awesome. I swam around for a long time. I did a dozen surface dives. I plunged down and touched the bottom. I stood on my head, then I zoomed back up to the top and flicked some water at one of my goldfish. The goldfish didn't seem happy. His jelly-like eyes gazed at me menacingly. And then he began to move, slowly, straight towards me. I raced to the purple rowboat and threw myself into it. The boat lurched and water poured in, but it didn't sink. The goldfish took his time, slowly. It began to circle the boat, around and around and around, watching me menacingly. Did it plan to attack? I huddled in the bottom of the little boat all night. I wished the goldfish would stop circling me. I lost all track of time, and after a while, sunlight washed over the fish tank. Morning. I heard a familiar voice from far away. Eric! Eric! It was my sister. I was never so glad to hear her voice. Sarah! I called back. I'm over here. I'm in the fish tank. Peering over the side of the boat, I could see her moving around my room. Sarah! Over here! I shouted, cupping my hands around my mouth. Look in the fish tank! Over here! She didn't turn around. She couldn't hear me. I was about the size of an ant. How could I expect her to hear an ant's tiny cry? Gazing through the glass side of the tank, I saw my sister step closer. Yes, I cried out loud. Yes, she's coming over here. She bent down and stared at the fish. Here, over here, I cried. I jumped up and started waving both arms. I nearly tipped over the boat. Sarah, Sarah! A big gourmand floated in front of me, blocking me from view. When the fish swam away, Sarah was gone. Now what? I asked myself. I've had a swim. I've had my excitement for one summer. It's time to get out of here. It's time to be big again. The enormous goldfish came rolling toward me again. Look out, I cried. Too late, the big fish bumped up hard against the side of the boat. Hey, I cried as I felt the boat tip. I toppled into the water with a splash. The fish slid past me. I could feel his scaly skin brush my side. Yuck! I heard a disgusting sucking sound. I turned and saw the gaping round mouth pulling at the water, pulling me toward the hungry fish. I'm going to be fish food, I realized. I tried to swim faster, but my side started to ache. Then the sucking sounds grew louder. The fish was pulling me into its mouth. A desperate idea flashed into my mind, the deep sea diver. I kicked my feet hard and dived down to the plastic figure. I grabbed the spear away from the diver and spun around to face my enemy. The other fish all scattered to the sides of the tank. The goldfish attacked, shooting through the water. I dodged away, kicked hard, dived to the bottom of the tank. I waited, watching it circle. I raised the spear, I took aim, and sent the spear sailing towards it. Missed. That fish was too fast. I saw its eye flare with anger. It dived towards me. I pressed my back against the side of the tank. It whipped around and smacked me with its tail. Stunned, my knees buckled and I started to drop to the tank floor. The spear floated down to the bottom. I grabbed it just as the fish attacked again. The huge yellow body soared toward me. I drew back my arm and drove the spear into the fish's underbelly. What am I doing? I asked myself, watching it float up onto its side. I just killed one of my pets, but I couldn't worry about it. I mean, it had just tried to eat me. The dead goldfish floated to the top, but I didn't have time to relax. The other fish were eyeing me off now. I grabbed the spear and held it ready. Was I going to have to fight them all, one by one? 2 neons darted close. They were my smallest fish, but now they were bigger than me. If they decided to attack together, I was doomed. Then, from far away, I heard voices. The words were muffled by water, but through the glass, I saw Mum and Sarah. They were walking about my room. I guess they wondered where I was. I knew I couldn't call to them, especially from the bottom of the tank, but how could I signal them? How could I get their attention? My heart started to pound when I saw Sarah walk over to the fish tank. She stared down into the water and she poked a finger in it and flicked the dead fish. "Mum, there's a dead fish in here," I heard her call. I saw Mum step up beside Sarah. She stared down at the dead goldfish. Then I saw Mum pick up the white net I kept at the side of the tank. The net. She's going to use it to lift out the dead fish, I realised. I took a deep breath and leapt off the tank floor. I started swimming to the top as hard as I could. I kicked and thrashed through the water. I had to get into that net. It was my only chance to escape. Up I swam. I reached the surface, gasping, every muscle aching. I grabbed the rim of the net with both hands and pulled myself up and in. Yes! I tried to stand, tried to wave to my mum, but the net wiggled in the water. It dipped low. I struggled to stay inside. "Ow!" I cried out as something heavy landed on top of me. Something heavy and very smelly. The dead goldfish. I tried to shove it off me, but I wasn't strong enough. I couldn't breathe. It was crushing me. And then I felt the water fall away. The net was lifted from the tank. The heavy fish bounced on top of me. Mum was carrying the net out of the room. I tried to call out, but the dead fish smothered my face. Where was she taking me? Oh no, I knew where. She was taking me to the burial place of all pet goldfish. The bathroom. "Please, Mum!" I cried, shoving the dead fish off me. "Please don't flush me. Please don't flush your only son, Mum." I climbed on top of the dead fish, but she still couldn't hear me. "Please don't flush me. I'm in here too, Mum. It's me. Please don't flush me." She tilted the net. I tried to grab the side, missed, and went sailing down, down, down. I shut my eyes as I fell. I felt the air whip around me, drying my tiny body. I waited for the splash, but my feet hit the floor instead. Startled, I opened my eyes. I stood face to face with Mum. She was so stunned that she dropped the net. "Eric, where did you come from?" she shrieked. I was in my room," I said, trying to sound casual, but I didn't feel casual. I felt like leaping up and down and screaming, "I'm me again, I'm me!" But how did I get back to my old size? I thought about it a lot that day. I decided that getting dry was the answer. As soon as the air dried me off, I zoomed up to my old size. And I'm going to stay this size, I promised myself. I kept the promise for 2 days. Then the temperature outside soared to 102. I could barely breathe. I needed a swim, desperately. I stared into the fish tank, remembering how cold and refreshing the water felt. Yes, I knew it was dangerous. I knew what a close call I'd had. I knew that going back in the tank was a crazy idea, but it was also really exciting. And I was sweltering. This time, I'll be more careful, I told myself. First, I got a bag of little stones. I built a wall down the center of the tank. The fish could swim on one side of the wall, I'd swim on the other. My own little swimming pool. When I'm tired of swimming, I'll stand up on the rocks and let the air dry me, and I'll instantly return to my big size. What could go wrong? I slid my finger into the fish tank and traced a clockwise figure 8. I did it 5 times, then I changed directions, traced 5 more times. The filter bubbles gurgled, and once again I was tiny, plunging into the water for a refreshing swim. I had swum for only a minute or two when I heard voices at the top of the tank. Floating slowly, I glanced up. I was surprised to see Mum and Sarah. "Where's Eric?" I heard Mum ask, her voice muffled by the water. "Where is he? I bought him such a nice surprise." "Who knows?" I heard Sarah reply. "He keeps disappearing." Mum leaned closer to the tank. She had a plastic bag in her hand. The bag held 2 fish. I stared up from the bottom of my private pool. "Look, Sarah," I heard Mum exclaim. "Eric built a perfect little swimming pool for my present. He piled up rocks and moved the fish to one side. I'll bet he guessed what I was going to buy for him." "What is it?" Sarah asked. "What did you get him?" Mum held the bag over the top of the tank. Then she dumped the 2 new fish into my private swimming pool. "They are Siamese fighting fish," Mum told Sarah. "The meanest fish on earth. Look at them snap their teeth. Won't Eric be surprised?" Just kidding, guys. It's just me. Hey, look, if you are after more chills, thrills, and... did I mention chills? Please subscribe to the Leftovers channel. I'll be doing a whole bunch more super spooky material, especially the Goosebumps book reading. I've tracked down every single one of those 10 tales to give you goosebumps, and I will be reading each story. So subscribe, hit that little bell icon so you can keep getting notified. You know how the system works. And yeah, tune in next time for some more Leftovers from the Leftover Culture Review.